Congratulations on your
Thank
ASC
you.
award nomination.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. So, I mean, you shot 6 episodes of this season of
hmm
Atlanta, including episode 8, New Jazz, which you're
hmm
nominated for. I'd love to begin at the beginning of how you ended up on this show.
so I guess the beginning, it was a little bit of luck, a little bit of being in the right place at the right time. Basically, the show was gonna shoot about a year beforehand. Then COVID happened, and that delayed the season for about a year. Originally, Christian Sprenger was going to travel over and shoot the whole show. When the delay happened, and then they finally got restarted, he wasn't able to travel to Europe for the European eps. That was going to shoot first in their schedule. So they put a call out to see who was available, and my agent put my reel in front of somebody, and I got a call with Hero, and yeah, just that was it. That's how it happened. So I ended up doing, starting the schedule. They basically shot the European episodes of season 3 first, and then they traveled back to Atlanta and they shot the season 4 episodes so that they could finish out the cast. And then Christian then picked up and shot the remaining 4 episodes of season 3, which was the alternate episodes from that season.
So, when you were shooting, you weren't rotating with anyone, you were just shooting back-to-back episodes.
Yeah, so we shot back to back to get all of Europe done. So we started in
Yeah.
London. We prepped London, shot there, went to Amsterdam, prepped, shot Amsterdam, then traveled to Paris, prepped, shot Paris, and then I was done. And then Hero jumped in a plane and literally went straight over and
Wow.
joined Christian in Atlanta. So Christian was prepping while we were shooting. He was prepping from Atlanta.
How long did you have to shoot those 6 episodes?
That's a great question. I think we shot them in about 5 weeks. I think we
Wow.
prepped for quite a bit longer. Um, I'm gonna say the prep was maybe 7 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks, and I think the shoot was about 5 weeks. We
Okay.
were still, you know, London was still in the middle of one of its lockdowns, so that kind of slowed us down a little bit and gave us a few curveballs to deal with. But it also then benefited us because we got access to an incredible amount of places that we wouldn't normally have had access to because of the lockdown,
Uh-huh.
which was really great.
Yeah. So for this episode, New Jazz, that you're nominated for, what were, some of the challenges that stand out?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the thing about New Jazz and Atlanta is it's a fine balance between you know the drama of the image, the comedy of the image, and the sort of naturalism, the cinematic naturalism of the image as well. And that was kind of the general challenge throughout all of the episodes that I did. Um, New Jazz in particular, New Jazz was a mix between a little bit of work in Amsterdam, a little bit of work in London. And we were kind of we were shooting all the episodes at the same time. So we kind of had like an idea of what we wanted one episode to be and a different camera language for another episode. But you weren't necessarily, we could have been shooting New Jazz on Monday, shooting another episode on Tuesday, back to New Jazz on Wednesday. Just sort of keeping those threads straight in your head. That was a little bit of a challenge, but it was a nice challenge. It was a very fun production. It was a very fun shoot.
Yeah. I mean, what were some of the things that stand out to you? Maybe not even in New Jazz, since it was all interspersed together and shooting, that you're like, wow, this was a really cool, fun experience to get to shoot this.
It's just what, the cast are so good and Hero is so good, and it's a pleasure to watch. It's a great show to be the first audience, and see what they're doing and see how they're kind of riffing off each other and expanding ideas and changing things subtly from the page. So pretty much, it's I've said this a bunch of times to a bunch of different people in interviews. I genuinely mean it. It was one of the nicest shows to be on. It was such a lovely experience. We had a great crew, we had a great cast. Everything just clicked. That doesn't always happen, but in this case, everything just clicked so well that it was an absolute pleasure shooting every single episode. It was great.
If you had to just take one scene from New Jazz to talk about, what would that be?
Um, there's a scene with Liam Neeson, which was great fun to shoot. Fantastic to work with Liam. We only had him for a couple of hours in one day, but the scene that I probably am the proudest of is there's a small scene where one of the characters, Brian, who plays Paperboy, he ducks into a room, a very dark room, and discovers a woman in a very white dress with very pale skin crying in the middle of a totally black space. And he goes to help her and then realizes it's a play that he stepped into. To shoot somebody with Brian's complexion in that totally black space and with that woman's really pale complexion in that totally black space and get that balance of exposure just right, and then at the very end reveal that there's an audience watching them. Even though it appears really simple on the page, it was really challenging, but it turned out really, really well. So that was kind of something I'm quite proud of. No one else will ever notice. Maybe the DPs might appreciate it. The audience will
Right.
never get it. But it was really great. It was really great fun to do.
How did you go about trying to balance those two different skin tones?
So it was kind of like it was picking how bright I wanted the highlights to be and how dark I wanted the shadows to be. Brian's skin is amazing. It's really reflective, which really helps. And it has a lovely warmth to it as well, which really, really helps. And I was quite happy to have the paler actress be a little bit overexposed so that your eye is kind of distracted from, seeing into the shadows and finding the audience that you're not supposed to see until the very last minute. So it was just a balancing act of picking an exposure that got me enough detail in Brian's skin and blew out enough detail in her costume and her skin. It worked out really well.
I love that. I love that it's, the scene that stands out to you is something that appears on the surface to be so simple, but then there's, layers underneath it. What does this nomination mean to you?
It means a lot. It's not something I ever thought would ever happen to me. If you had said this to me when I was a 20-year-old starting out, I would never have thought that I would be in that realm of ASC cinematographers, getting those kinds of awards.
Mhm.
So the fact that it's something that's chosen by your peers, by cinematographers who I admire, whose work I admire, is means a lot.
Yeah, no, I think that that's the best praise you can get is from, your peers who really truly
Absolutely,
understand what it is that
absolutely.
you've put into something. Speaking of your peers, is there any of the other nominated shows or films that really stand out to you that really inspired you creatively this year that you'd like to give a shout out to?
I mean, I thought Greg Fraser's work on the Batman was absolutely stunning. It blew my mind, made me feel like I'm a total hack. So, and I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, there's a lot of really amazing work done this year, yours included. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Um, is there anything else you'd like to talk about with the episode?
No, I mean, I would reiterate how great everyone else was. I know that's a terrible thing. It sounds like a marketing, fluff, but it was just an absolute pleasure. And it was a pleasure because all of the people were on their A game,
Mhm.
that comes from the top, it comes from the producers, comes from the cast, it trickles down to the crew. And then yeah, it was just great.
That's wonderful.